Good morning, traders. Today is Thursday, June 2nd. My name is Charles, and this is the Pirate Traders live stream. All right, well, what are we looking at in the market? Last week, we had a bunch of excess with this big move to the upside in the market, and we had a trend going for the latter part of last week. That trend is now officially broken as of yesterday, with value being lower than the previous day's value. That shows us a sign that the uptrend is broken. I would still describe this as a market imbalance, right? So when you create that kind of excess, that kind of a move to the upside, there's two ways to balance it off. One, you can go sideways at higher prices and then break out later. Or the other way is you can pull back down with price and repair the excess using price. Where the market stopped yesterday with the gap fill that we left behind on Friday, or with the gap we left behind on Friday, filling that would be the very first stop on a way to balance off the excess using price. So this to me is still a market that's in balance. This is not bearish yet. It's just a market that's trying to absorb this big move up that we had. We also can look at the shape of the profiles from the last 2 days as a sign of balance happening in the market. We have a bell-shaped curve from Tuesday, and a B-shaped profile from yesterday. Both of those profiles are a version of balance and not necessarily a sign that a market needs to make a move in a certain direction. So to me, this market, I would describe this as a market that is in balance. So this morning, I'm basically looking at the overnight as a potential breakout area and the overnight range as a potential rotational range. So if we can get, obviously we can see that the resistance in the overnight happened in the same area where we ran out of steam yesterday, which was right where we had the largest amount of trade the previous day and overnight, right? So if we're able to get back up through that, come back down and find some support, I'd be happy to go long for continuation to the upside. Same thing with the overnight low. We found support in the overnight right in this big node where we created the support yesterday for the market after we repaired that gap that needed to be backfilled. So this is a good area to find support. If we're able to work our way through it, come back up and find resistance, I would go short for continuation to the downside. But as long as we're in the middle, as long as we're inside this overnight range, I expect we, just like the overnight, will chop and grind as the market is in balance. When the market's in balance, it basically just means that the larger players have not made a decision about where they think the market is going to go. So it is mostly just short-term traders picking each other's pockets, which creates an environment for a lot of chop and grind. So I would say breaking below like 40.78, coming back up and finding resistance there, that would be the short for continuation to the downside. And getting above 41.25, coming back down and finding support, that is good for continuation to the upside. There is, of course, a chance that we are beginning a new downtrend in the market, right? Value being lower yesterday than the previous day. We may get continuation of that. But of course, before that would happen, we would push below that node, come back up and find resistance. So that is the best entry for a short. We have left some weakness behind in the market on the 26th, 25th, and 24th of last week. So if we do start to trade lower, if we break below this node, come back up, find some resistance, and we start to get continuation, we just monitor for continuation as we get lower. So we first head down to repair 45. If we repair that, and that doesn't bring in the buyers, we target the next week reference. If we repair that, and that doesn't bring in the buyers, we target the next, and so on and so forth. So sit back, relax, and let's watch some chop. All right, we broke the overnight low. That's a little bit bearish. Good morning, Cyrus, The Shaw, Scooball, Lamus, RK Leon, Greg H, Amir, WSS, FRM, Jay Crockett, welcome to you. Tyler Durden, Eldora, Ronald, Jack, Caffeine, Rev, Nor Auto Trading, TV, Cortman, Arthur, J Trader, Ranjan, Dean, J Trader, Elliot, Bossman, Anita, John, T-Bay, Philip, Jeff, and Daniel. Welcome to everyone. If you have not yet, please smash that like button. Really helps out the channel if you push the like when you first get here in the morning. We got 130 people watching, but only 40 likes. Why you guys hate me so much? What'd I ever do to you? That's what I say. Of course, if you dislike, you can push that thumbs down. That's fine too. Check, check, check. Is that better for the mic? Is that better for the mic? Can you hear me now? Sometimes unplugging it and plugging it back in works. All right, so we're getting some resistance at the half back. That's a little bit bearish. Normally, if we were just going to chop all morning, we'd have no problem heading back up towards the open. All right, so for those of you that are just tuning in, got a couple new people jumping on here. Please smash that thumbs up button. I sure would appreciate it. Also, just to give you a rundown of what I'm seeing here, I'm seeing the market imbalance. I think we are absorbing the excess we created last week. So we may need further selling in order to balance off that excess, but we don't necessarily have to. So the thing I'm keeping an eye on is this little node of volume right here from yesterday, the bottom of which is at about 40.77. Okay. It's currently acting as support for the market. So if the market pushes below this level and comes back up, and then that support becomes resistance, I'd be looking for further downside continuation. But until then, I expect we're just going to grind around. As a market imbalance often doesn't trend, it slowly melts one way or another. Chip, are those red-green triangles on your tick chart another indicator? I've searched Google, YouTube, Thinkorswim. Can't find out how to set those. Yeah, hold on one second. I'll send you a link. All right, Chirp, I just popped a link there in the chat. If you click on that, well, it's telling me it can't take me there. That's weird. You give it a try. It should work for you. Basically, that'll take you to the Pirate Traders website and the blog on market internals. If you just scroll down to the paragraph that's about the tick, you'll see there's a link there to the Shadow Trader website. That plugin is from Shadow Trader, and it's free. You just got to give him your email address, and he'll let you download it. I don't use those arrows at all, but it also puts in the green line and the red line at the positive and negative 1,000, which is convenient to have. The arrows, the triangle, I mean, just shows you whether that candle is going to close above or below the zero line. But not something I take into account. Okay, so the overnight inventory last night was what we would call neutral, right? It was neither net long nor net short because they opened right here and they closed right here. They basically went nowhere, right? They traded up and down and up and down, and then they closed almost exactly where they opened. So that means there's no adjustment that needs to take place based on overnight activity. So right out the gate this morning, we can start to watch the internals for signals about what is happening. Are there more buyers and sellers right now at this moment? And I would say the breadth has not dipped below the zero line. The advancers versus decliners just dipped below, but is finding support. And both the ticks are finding support. So that is a little bit bullish to see. Scuball, but TIX was at almost plus 600 at the open. Yeah, but it's about like, so when the overnight inventory is net long or net short, you can't really trust the internals. Let me just turn this off. You can't trust the internals for the first few minutes of the day because a lot of times the market needs to absorb that overnight activity. So it may not be reliable, right? It might seem like the market is bearish, but really it's just that the overnight inventory was net long or vice versa. So it doesn't, I'm not talking about where does it open in terms of the ticks. It's just the idea that from the open, whatever the ticks do are sending us a message. So yeah, they started at positive 600, worked their way all the way down to negative 500 or negative 400, right? What did price do in that time? Traded from all the way up here to down here. But they found support and turned around and headed back up. And the ticks are doing so as well. The internals are doing so as well. So it's just an indicator that, like, as of right now, the market is neutral. Neither bullish nor bearish. Kathy Pan, when you draw those support or resistance levels, do you actually look to buy short when the market gets there? It's a great question. Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. If I feel confident, I understand what the market is doing, then I am always placing my orders at support or resistance. So if I'm going to go long, it will always be at a place where the arrow says support. If I'm going to take profits or go short, it's always going to be in an area where it says resistance. But in a moment like this, no, I'm not trading this. Just because I don't trade morning chop, the first hour of the day when the market is just grinding up and down. I don't trade it just because I've just found it's not worth the emotional distress, right? If all morning long I'm going long and oh no, it pulls back and I'm short and then I'm this and then I'm that and I'm oh no and I made money and I lost money and I da-da-da-da. Like by the time we get to the latter part of the day, get to that like 10:30, 11:30, part of the day where the market starts to present really good opportunities to make money, I'm mentally exhausted from spending the whole morning trying to guess, is it going to go up? Is it going to go down? Da-da-da-da. So for me personally, I find it's easier when we're inside the previous day's range like this, when we're expecting to just get chop, to just let the market chop. Let it grind around, let it do its thing. I don't have to be in a trade. I'm fine with watching the market go up and down and doing nothing so that I can wait until I see a clear opportunity, right? So what are clear opportunities I see right now? Well, if we got through the opening price, I would definitely see us trading up into this node right here. If we did not get resistance here, we were able to break through. I would look for that to become support and then look for a trade up to the next resistance. That to me would be a doable trade from there to there. Or as I've been saying, if we break this support down here, come back up, find resistance there, that would be a good short. But in the middle, it's just a chop. And I don't mess with the chop because it's not worth the mental capital. Now, there are those traders who are scalpers who love the first hour of the day. This is their bread and butter because they can get into a trade and trust that it'll come back to them if they're wrong. But for me, it's just not worth the mental stress. Market doesn't know what it wants to do, so it can't have any of my money until it decides. All right, just opening up the NQ now, realizing we had a poor low we left behind yesterday on the NQ, and we just repaired that. So getting back below that low again and finding resistance there would be bearish for downside continuation. But we may have just needed to repair it. So I'm not bearish solely on the fact that we dipped below yesterday's low. I'm looking to see, do new sellers pile on now? All right, well, if they wanted to get super bearish, I'm looking at the NQ here. If they wanted to get super bearish, the first step would be to get below that low from yesterday, right? As soon as they accomplished that, they should have had sellers waiting to pile on when they came back up into this node right here. So I would have expected resistance at the halfback to head back lower. The fact that they were able to push back through this node right here and back through the opening price and recover those ticks back above the zero line is a sign that the chop is not over. There's no reason to get bearish yet. The market is still in price discovery mode. Back to the ES. Screwball ES getting resistance at overnight low? Yes, it is. Alex, support, question mark? I mean, it's just chop. So everything is support and resistance. The market's just going to keep grinding up and down until it picks a direction. Okay, we're now pushing into the 20 moving average on the 15-minute candles for the NQ. That often acts as resistance. It would be bullish if we're able to poke through and stay above it. Are you talking about Screwball? No. At the time he said it, there was resistance there. The market, for like about 2 minutes, it was just bouncing up off of there, but then it broke right through. Nor Auto Trader says today he's 50 years old. Congrats, brother. Happy birthday. We'll catch you tomorrow. Keep in mind, the more time we spend chopping around in such a tight range like this, it's like a coil. It's like a spring getting tighter and tighter and tighter. It's like a rubber band getting pulled back even more and more and more. We can't keep chopping around in a tight range forever. And when we break out, we'll get some momentum because whichever side loses will get squeezed. But I couldn't tell you which side it'll be just yet. It's anybody's ball game. That's right. The calm before the storm. The build-up before the explosion. All right, well, something turned the market on. I assume some piece of news or something just came out. All right, so now we are pushing up into this first bit of resistance above us here, around the basically right where we are now. If we can break through that resistance, come back down and find some support, it's good for continuation up to the next node. We'd pretty much like to see the market stay above the opening price here if we're going to get bullish. Now, of course, we may get up into that next node of volume and then just start chopping once again. As long as we're inside that overnight range, we can just keep going. But getting from here to here is a pretty good probability play. Once this short covering ends and we come back down and find some support. Looking for new buyers. It's Fed's Brainerd once again. Every time they talk, the market goes nuts. All right, so that was the short covering rally. Now let's look for new buyers. We want to find support above the opening price. Overlord. Brainerd says we're getting mixed signals on the economy. Yeah, it's funny how all it takes is him saying that and the bots go like, mixed signals? That's bullish. And they shoot the market up 10 points. Cortman, are you sure the birds are not really Tick Strike running in the background? Well, if Tick Strike had a bird setting, it would probably be more popular than the pinging noise. All right, well, we're starting to get new buyers in here. Nothing to write home about just yet. But I am bullish as long as we stay above the opening price. I think we may need to head up and test this node up here around 4120. So we're still building support. But if we can stay above the opening, I think that's the target up there. Of course, if we cross back through that open once again, this was nothing but a short covering rally, and we're back in the chop zone. Scooball, the 70 contracts of volume should be repaired. Where do you see 70 contracts? Michael, Blue Jays, a cardinal. Sounds like a nice little birding spot. I guess if that's your sort of thing, it's a great spot to watch birds. Dun, 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 dun. All right. Well, ticks back below zero. Pushed our way back below the open. So that was just a short covering rally. The chop continues. Scoop ball sellers had a chance. Buyers had a chance. Yep. They've both had their chance. And no one will take leadership in this market. All right, well, the market just created a poor low here in the B period. So that increases the odds that we will get a push away from the poor low that comes back down to repair it, meaning they're going to push at least a few more ticks lower than that A period low. I'm honestly still not that bearish. Like, it's something funky is happening here. But this doesn't feel that terribly bearish to me. So I'm going to stick to my previous assumption, which is that we're going to push lower, come back up, and find resistance in here. And that is shortable for continuation to the downside. Sometimes a market has to rally before it can break. So when you get a short covering rally, a lot of times what happens is you squeeze out the weak hand shorts that were in here, and you bring in stronger hand short traders up at the highs who will hold on to that trade for much longer because they got a better entry. So that might be what we're seeing here, but it still feels like chop. On the NQ, it would be getting below yesterday's low and finding resistance there. Getting below like 51. That would get me bearish. All right, so here's where I'm looking for that resistance. I'm going to keep an eye on the ticks here and see, do they hold them below the zero line? And do they start to press lower once again? That would be a sign of new sellers piling on, trying to take the market lower. Wow, what a tricky morning. All right, well, they broke back through that resistance, or they're breaking through it right now. They were able to get those ticks to pump back above the zero line. So the chop continues. There is still no leadership in the market. At this point, you can basically just watch the C period or any period after that for which direction it breaks the initial balance. So the initial balance is the high and low within the first hour. So this is the NQ here. If the C period heads up and it breaks 12,634, you'll look for continuation to the upside. And if it breaks 12,442, you'll look for continuation lower. Same thing on the ES. If we break 4108 to the upside, we'll look for continuation higher. And if we break 4072 to the downside, continuation lower. But until then, this whipsaw market will continue. I wish you all the very best. As far as like stepping back and taking a bigger picture of the market right now, am I bullish or bearish? Again, not really. Not bearish, because even if the market has to pull back further, it's just to balance off the excess. So to me, it's not necessarily a sign that we're about to make new all-time lows or new, recent lows. I think we're just in balance right now. But if we, by the end of the day today, if we start to trade below yesterday's range and we do sell off, that could be the beginning of a trend lower. So that will get me a little bearish. But as of now, I think the market is just in balance. So with that, I bid you all farewell. If you are not a member of the brigade, there's a link in the description. You can join for just $10 a month. And then you get to keep this commentary going all day long. If not, we'll see you here tomorrow morning. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. Bye-bye.